Well, let's get more now. We can speak to Dr Anan Wahabi, who is a lecturer in political science at the University of Haifa and a former chief instructor at the IDF. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. We've heard today from the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Prince Faisal bin Farhan, saying that the people of the Palestinian people, he said, are facing the most horrific forms of oppression and genocide. How would you respond to those comments?
Well, the situation in Gaza Strip is really very dangerous. The civilians are facing a very complicated situation. The military, Israeli pressure on the one hand, and the same strategy of Hamas on the other hand, that is not paying a lot of attention for the needs of the local civilians in Gaza Strip. We are so sorry to see this situation. Yes, there is a very bad situation. We should do more in order to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza Strip. I don't think that we can talk about genocide. It's a very maybe extreme, I would say, terminology for the situation right now. But yes, the situation is very bad. It's too dangerous, and the military action has to be stopped at some point and to turn to political solutions.
Sure, and we'll come back to the idea of this concept of genocide and the definition of it, because some countries are using that term. Many of Israel's closest allies are not yet using that definition. But I just want to go back to what the Saudi foreign minister was saying. He made an important point, saying that what's being done to the people of Gaza undermines prospects for peace and security, not just in the region, but in the world. And, you know, when we think about those 2 million people in Gaza and also people in the West Bank who are taunted or humiliated on a fairly regular basis, I mean, it's very difficult to see a two-state solution ever being workable now. I mean, do you think the two-state solution is an impossibility, given the acrimony, the hatred that must exist really, clearly on both sides?
Yeah, we should remember that the October the 7th was a wave that made a very profound change in the Middle East, not only in Israel, not only the crisis between the Israelis and the Palestinians, the current and some kind of permanent one. We should remember that the two-state solution and separation between the two people and the self-definition of each side is the only solution in the horizon. Now, the complication here is how to be implemented on the ground, because when the Israelis are building more settlements in the West Bank, and the two communities are living together, the Israeli Arabs and the Jewish in the West Bank, it's really not easy to divide, geographically speaking, the state. And maybe we should move towards the different situation where if we will reach real peace as part of the Abraham Accords, then we do not have to be each alone. We can live together in the Holy Land, and yes, a Palestinian state, a Palestinian government, but the two people should be living together in the one economy and the one strategy, state, academy, economy, as I said. And yes, it can be working, because the other solution of total separation between the two communities is really very complicated.
Yeah, it is. Logistically, it raises a huge number of questions. But when it comes to, for example, something President Trump wants to do, which is to expand and build on the Abraham Accords, I mean, very difficult to sell that idea to many leaders in the Arab world right now, given what we're seeing on our television screens every single day about what Israel has been doing in Gaza, notably. I mean, doesn't it make the idea of expanding the Abraham Accords almost impossible for the next few years?
Yeah, it makes it a bit impossible for the next day, for the foreseeable future. But there's no other way. We should return to this path of peace sooner we can. It's the only way. Recently, the IDF received a directive from the government to occupy Gaza in order to eliminate the remaining Hamas fighters, and maybe later on, according to this government, it will start maybe a new situation in Gaza where the rehabilitation of Gaza Strip will start, and the real political and the humanitarian solutions will also embark together with the neighboring Arab states as part of the same strategy of peace. And yes, we count very much on the Gulf states, led by Saudi Arabia, by the Emirates, and other very moderate and open regimes that want to change the situation together with the United States. And I hope with a reasonable government here in Israel, it's the only solution. And we are really waiting for this minute to be, the war to be over, to make a prisoner deal, and to start a new situation in Gaza, because it's really the life, it's not fit for a life, Gaza, at the moment. And I'm afraid there should be also evacuation for a while in order to rehabilitate Gaza. Now, in the mind of President Trump, he said, I will own Gaza, I will rebuild Gaza. Maybe he is really dreaming of real rehabilitation of Gaza and building a very beautiful, maybe city-based little state on the Mediterranean. Hopefully that this will work later on, and to improve the Gazan life and to start a new, maybe, future.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, we haven't heard President Trump talking quite in those terms, at least not in the last few months. I mean, does that sound like a realistic proposition, though, what you just described in terms of President Trump's vision for Gaza?
Well, President Trump in the second term is rewriting his biography. He wants to be in history as a peacemaker, to continue the track of the peace accord with the neighboring Arab states, as well with the Palestinians. Yes, time to tell. And I think that he is a man of deals, as we know him. And yeah, maybe he's also imagining this kind of deal where Gaza can be rebuilt the way he dreams.
Let's talk about what's happening in Gaza today. There were Israeli airstrikes on the Nasser hospital, which I believe is in the south of Gaza near Khan Yunis. At least 15 people killed. It's been reported a number of them were journalists. One of them worked for Reuters. I mean, it's been reported that upwards of 200 people, journalists, have been killed in Gaza these last 22 months. So I'm just wondering why such a high death toll of media people. I mean, are they targeted, do you think, specifically because of the work they do?
Well, it's not the first time that the Hamas, on the one hand, they exploits the civil infrastructure, hospitals in particular. We know that part of the headquarters were under hospitals in Gaza Strip. And here, where everything starts and ends, and Israel, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, do not act in the perfect way that they can separate between the militants and the civilians. And we are so sorry to see in some cases that there is a damage for those infrastructures and for civilians. It's part of the price, very heavy price of war that we all are waiting and pray to end this kind of complexity and attrition as well for the civilians, for the IDF on the other hand, and none of the sides is willing to stop this war.
Yeah, but I mean, there is this perception. I mean, when you see a death toll, like the death toll we've seen for the number of journalists, and you know, this idea that journalists are not freely allowed into Gaza, although there are petitions and appeals being made by countries to change that. I mean, there's a perception that Israel doesn't want people to see what's happening in Gaza, and journalists who go in there under supervision get told what they can and cannot film. Is Israel hiding something from the rest of the world?
I don't think so. I think that the Israeli journalists are trying to gather, according to the perception, at least in Israel. There is the idea and the other idea as part of the Israeli media to hide maybe part of the picture for military needs, but not to hide the total picture. Israel know that she is at war. The attack was done by Hamas from Gaza, and then it's not over yet. And it was too long. It should be stopped. That's right. But Israel has nothing to hide.
Dr. Anan, you served in the IDF Intelligence Directorate. You commanded operational units and headed Israel's international strategic perception, psychological warfare and cyber warfare efforts. And I want to ask you how it now looks like, while we're talking about public opinion, that public opinion in countries even that are closely allied to Israel now oppose or vehemently oppose Israel's actions in Gaza. Does that worry you? And do you think we're at risk of Israel's international standing being undermined?
Yeah, this worries me very much. I must point that Israel has more than one public opinion. The public opinion in Israel is divided between those who want to stop the war in Gaza and to move forward to an agreement to prisoners deal with the Hamas, with the Palestinian side, and to start a new situation there. And the others, the extreme side of this right government that want to continue the war and till the end, till they just occupy total occupation of Gaza Strip. It was the directive right now. IDF has said to the government, to this government, that there were levels to pressure Hamas to reach a prisoners deal, and it was not implemented before. So the Israelis are asking. We have been serving in the army, in the reserve for quite a long time, and the war is not over. So the public opinion that this war of attrition, exhausting our soldiers in Gaza, must be stopped, and to get back to the peaceful solution together with the neighboring countries. We want to be part of this path of normalization with the neighboring states, and it's the only horizon that can be good for Israel and for the neighboring Arab states. Otherwise, we are right now, we start to see Turkey is back here, the new Ottoman actor is here again, together with the Qataris that are trying maybe to create a new chaos axis instead of the Iranian one. And this will put the neighboring Arab states together with Israel in a big risk.
Okay, well, you mentioned a lot of points there, but I mean, coming back to Gaza more specifically and talking about the humanitarian situation there, a famine was declared in Gaza by the United Nations on Friday. And I'm assuming in Israel, people see the same pictures on their televisions that everyone else seems to be seeing everywhere else in the world, where we see emaciated children, we see people living in misery, we have reports of human corpses being eaten by dogs on the side of the road. I mean, the stuff of nightmares. What goes through your mind when you see those pictures and when you heard the UN announce a famine is now official?
Yeah, the pictures are very bad. We want to see other pictures rather than this miserable situation and the people suffer and maybe hunger. I don't know if there's real hunger, but at least it's spoken in the media. Yeah, people are suffering. And we don't mind if Hamas do not count the local civilians, and they've been exploiting the locals as human shields, and they do not care really for their health and for the situation. at least not like the same care that the Arab neighboring states are trying to maybe to bring. But yes, it has to be stopped, and a deep change must start in Gaza. The education system must be changed. I want to remind that Hamas has been educating for aggression, for hostility, for eliminating the state of Israel, and for maybe acting against part of the Arab neighboring states regimes. This way of thinking must be changed, and everybody know that the only side that can interfere for the benefit of the Gazans are the Arab, mainly Gulf states, together with Egypt. And this voice is very much heard here in Israel and in the Gaza as well.
I mean, you mentioned education in Gaza, but according to UNRWA, a report they published in July stated that 97% of schools in Gaza have either been partially or completely destroyed. So hopes for education are a very, very long way off. When it comes to looking at what the future might look like, do you think there is a day after plan for Gaza? And if so, what do you think it looks like?
I think that the life is not fit for life right now. No infrastructure, no hospitals, even no mosques. Everything is down, and I think that I'm afraid that only evacuation, at least till real and deep rehabilitation will be done in Gaza. And I'm afraid it will take long because, first of all, we have to understand what will be the security arrangements together with the IDF and with the Israeli side. This needs the United States in, this needs European other countries together with the Arab side that wants to be side in Gaza to take responsibility for the future. The population must be evacuated for a while and then rehabilitation.
Where do you think they should be evacuated to? Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, I don't know. There are a lot of solutions, but at the moment they cannot stay there in tents. We are talking about something like 1.5 million people that don't have real houses, and the winter is just around the corner. We don't know, but maybe there will be other suggestions. They've been talking about Indonesia, about maybe Sinai, even Egypt that can maybe host for a while,
But this is their home. They're people from Gaza who live in Gaza. They've been there for generations. The idea of anyone being rehoused in Indonesia who's from somewhere that's tens of thousands of kilometers away is a very frightening, daunting, and frankly, inappropriate idea, isn't it?
Maybe, yeah, it's not normal, but the situation also is not normal because a real government would have stopped the war long before in order to achieve a political end state. But when a militia dominates a strip like Gaza, it doesn't really care for the future of the people, and it is the situation at the moment. And more than that, I think that the decision has taken from Hamas to other foreign hands, and it's moving right now to Turkey. Turkey is trying to interfere and to maybe to influence the political decision of Gaza and of Hamas, and they are not allowed at the moment to stop the war. So it's a very complex situation, and where the Gazans are paying the price for the Israeli desire to eliminate Hamas and the Hamas decision to exhaust the IDF soldiers. And it's open-ended, and very risky situation.
Yeah, I mean, I have to spare thoughts for those 2 million people who have nothing to do with the politics of it, who are caught in the middle of all of this. Just going back to what we were saying, I mean, this is my last question. I mean, education has been more or less brought to a standstill in Gaza. As we were saying, 97% of schools destroyed almost entirely. You were mentioning how mosques have been destroyed. I mean, so much of Gaza has been destroyed. And just really circling back to what we were saying about genocide at the beginning, and the definition of genocide being to intentionally destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial or religious group. I mean, doesn't it look like when you see a scorched earth situation like the one we have in Gaza today, where so much has been destroyed, history, families, homes, businesses, schools, the works, everything has been destroyed. I mean, what doesn't look like genocide there to you?
Well, there is a lot of, in the international law, several terminologies and definitions for this situation. War crimes, ethnic cleansing, and then the genocide, which is the upper level of hostility against people or community. I think that it's in and between these definitions, and whatsoever, it's a very dangerous situation. It's a very bad situation. Israel did not choose to do that at the beginning. It was the wave of the October the 7th. This, the savagery that was done. And I think that it has held the Israeli government in a situation that they are still in a post-traumatic situation, and they are still using force rather than stop for a while and using maybe political wisdom in order to get out of this circle of violence.
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. We really appreciate it. Dr. Anan Wahabi, thank you very much indeed.